and I am the LA County Chapter Chair of Moms for Liberty. I just kind of fell into this a little bit by happenstance. I spent 29 years with the Los Angeles Police Department. My job was to protect and serve. I felt like I was going out making a difference every day. And then that sweet little boy in the back, his name is Ty, and he had spinal fusion surgery 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago today. And when he was well enough to go back to school, I was like, okay, now what? I'm not used to being retired. I need to do something. I need to get engaged and getting involved. So prior to his illness, I was doing things, showing up at school board meetings, advocating for the right school board candidates to run, standing up for the right policies. But I was just Karen Frost showing up with a couple other moms, and nobody listened and nobody paid attention. So I looked into Moms for Liberty, and it had a pretty big platform. It was growing organically, and I'm not thrilled with that word, but it's true. It was just growing organically. It was gaining momentum. It was getting attention. And when I aligned with that platform, it gave me a bigger microphone and a bigger platform to move our message forward. So what is Moms for Liberty? Moms for Liberty was started about 4.5 years ago. So if you've heard of Moms for Liberty, that's pretty amazing that you've actually heard of us, considering we're only 4.5 years old. 2 moms in Florida that were school board trustees, that were no longer on a school board position, were really kind of ticked off that the schools were closed down, kids were being masked, masks mandates were coming down, and they said, we can't stand for this, we need to do something. So they started a group, $500, a Gmail account, in somebody's spare bedroom, and said, we're gonna start a group called Moms for Liberty. And it just kind of grew. It moved on to somebody, a friend of a friend that was in North Carolina, and then it grew. We had a chapter number 12 was here, actually in the state of California in San Luis Obispo. And now we have over 130,000 members, and we are in 300 chapters in 48 of the 50 states. It's just growing. We have 2 chapters in Hawaii, of all places. Who would have thought? This thing is just growing. It's gotten the attention of some people that are in pretty high positions. President Trump has been at our last 2 summit meetings. One was in Philadelphia, the last one was in Washington, D.C. He loves what we're doing. Now, there are a lot of organizations like Moms for Liberty. There's Moms for America, there's Turning Point, there's Turning Point Faith. We are not competitors. We are all allies. We hook arms, we fight together. We all have a voice in this. This is just one avenue. But what we carve out to do, it's in our mission statement. So if you guys saw this little flyer here that's passed out, our mission statement, Moms for Liberty is dedicated to fighting for the survival of America by unifying, educating, and empowering parents to defend their parental rights at all levels of government. So that's our carve out. There's a lot of really important things that we need to be paying attention to. The borders, that's huge. DOJ and everything that DOJ is doing is huge, okay? And I'm not minimizing that in the least, but what is our carve out? Our carve out is fighting for educational rights, parental rights, specifically having to do with education. So how do we do this? Most of the chapters that were started for Moms for Liberty were on the East Coast, starting in Florida, moved up to North Carolina. Those counties are really, really teeny tiny. Their county in, Buncombe, North Carolina is about the size of Long Beach. And so they're tiny little counties, started their own Moms for Liberty chapters. The people in those communities know each other. They typically only have 1 or 2 school boards. They started showing up and paying attention and pushing back on things that they didn't think were right and appropriate, and it worked. And they were getting candidates onto their school boards that aligned with their values. They were getting to know their superintendents and pushing back on things that they didn't think were appropriate. So we decided to launch one here in LA County. It was a great idea, and I think still it's a great idea, but LA County is bigger than most states. And it's bigger than some countries. And so when we launched it, they said you had to do Moms for Liberty, all of LA County. I said, oh, good Lord, that's quite a task. So I said, you know what, I will try it. And they said, do the best that you can. So I said, I'm going to launch this thing, LA County, but I'm going to concentrate on my community. I live in the northern Los Angeles County in Santa Clarita up by Magic Mountain. So we have 4 elementary school districts in the valley, and then we have 1 high school district that it's kind of a weird configuration, but there's 1 school district that's for all of the junior highs and high schools, and then 4 elementary school districts. And so we have just decided we're going to get in and we're going to get into the weeds, and we start showing up at these meetings. We follow their agendas. We watch for the things that are going right, and we watch for the things that are going wrong. And we started fighting for the best quality school board candidates to be in those positions. So the election cycle, I campaigned actively for about 4 candidates. We got 3 of them on. 1 didn't do all the things that I was trying to get him across the finish line. But, and that would have been a great win if we could have gotten him across, but he just wasn't in it as much as he should have been. But the other candidates that we got involved, I now have the president of our local elementary school district in my specific neighborhood. She's the president of the school board. She now calls me and says, Karen, I have something that I'm presenting to the school board, the rest of the school board, and the superintendent. I'd like to get your thoughts. That is a win, okay? I have a school board trustee from the high school district that called me yesterday. He says, Karen, we have all of these policies that are on our desk, waiting until we had a 4-to-1 majority on our school board, which we have now because we fought really hard knocking on doors, making phone calls, and dropping off flyers. We have a 4-to-1 majority on our high school board now. He says we have all of these policies like parental rights and taking the tampon machines out of the boys' bathrooms and all of these things. We have all of these policies that are on their desk. We'd like your help to do this. We need your people. So now I have the school board trustees that are calling us saying, I need your help to get this across the finish line. That is a win, okay? So this really works if you are doing it at the really grassroots level. So the reason why I'm here today is because Maureen and I have been talking and we've been working, and I'd like to see this replicated, what has been working well in Santa Clarita, replicated in Long Beach. I want to see it replicated in Pasadena. I want to see it replicated in Glendale. I had to do the legwork of filing to get an LA County chapter, filing the tax forms and all of the 501c4s. All of that's done. Now all we need to do is get concerned parents and grandparents or other concerned adults to start showing up at these school board meetings and paying attention, and then really start pushing back on things that don't make sense. Or when there's a school board candidate that's up for election, really start fighting and advocating for somebody that's qualified to replace them, like this young lady sitting here in the front row. So it's not hard. The legwork has been done, and what I want to see in LA County is to have a half dozen, a dozen, a whole bunch of little districts that are working in their neighborhoods. And so that means showing up at a school board meeting for probably 3 months and just monitoring what's going on. What is this school board presenting? What are their agenda items? What are the teachers happy about it? What are they miserable about? What are the parents complaining about? What is going on in the district? And then once you find out, okay, this is what's going on in the district, start writing letters to your trustees, writing letters to the superintendent, showing up at the school board meetings, taking the podium for your 2 minutes of public comment and talking about the issues. Doing group newsletters saying this is what happened at the last school board meeting and you guys should know and you should push back in this way. Starting social media posts saying, did you know that this happened at last night's school board meeting? When you start getting people aware, they start paying attention and pushing back. It can really, really work at a grassroots level, but it has to be done at the very, very grassroots. It has to be in a small community. So Long Beach or Redondo Beach or Pasadena, it has to be done in your local school board area under the umbrella. Now Moms for Liberty is great because we've been doing this only for 4 years, but they've really gotten very professional about it. So if you join the organization and you become a district lead and you get trained up a little bit, there's all kinds of resources about how to back and endorse a school board candidate. There's materials like this that you can print off. There are educational webinars. We have, I don't know if you know James Lindsay. I love James Lindsay. He has a book club, and on Monday, he's going to be hosting a book club. All Moms for Liberty members that are part of our organization can be part of this free book club to hear James Lindsay talking about his latest books. So we have all kinds of resources that are free and available to the members that join. So it's not reinventing the wheel, it's just giving you additional tools to do it under the umbrella of Moms for Liberty. So you're not just John Q. Citizen showing up saying, I have a problem with this. You say, I am John Q. Citizen, part of Moms for Liberty, and then you get some people's attention, and it really rattles some cages. Yes, ma'am.
Can anybody go to the school board meetings, or do you have a child there?
Anybody. If you are a constituent in that neighborhood, your tax dollars go to support that community. Your property taxes pay for that school board.
Okay.
So as a constituent, you have a voice. And that's one of the things that when I'm campaigning for a certain candidate, and they say, well, my kids are grown, I don't have kids in the school district anymore. And I said, then do it for mine. And if you don't have kids in the school district anymore, you say, do it for my neighbor's kids. Just because your kids are grown or don't have kids doesn't mean that your tax dollars don't go to support that school district. You have a voice, and you are allowed to have an opinion at that school board meeting and have a say. So I fully encourage anyone that is a constituent within the neighborhood to voice your opinion. In our school district, we have one school that shut down against parental will. They said it was low attendance, and it had some seismic issues, and it's closed down. And now they're getting a committee to discuss what they're going to do with this closed property, where they're going to lease it out, sell it out, retrofit it, turn it into a community center. And so we have lots and lots of people that are showing up to the school board meeting that don't have kids or grandkids, but they have a vested interest in what happens in that vacant piece of property because their tax dollars support the school board. So please, even if you don't have kids, show up at the school board meetings because you have a voice in this too. Yes.
How do we find out when the school board meetings meet?
School board meetings have to be posted. So first you need to find out what school board you're part of in your community. So if you're in Long Beach, are you part of Long Beach Unified? And in Los Angeles County, we have 47 cities in the county of Los Angeles, and I think we have 88 different school districts. There are so many. So you need to figure out in your specific neighborhood, what school district am I a part of? And then if you log on, you can log on what is, your school district for your neighborhood. 48 hours before the school board meeting, they have to post their agenda. So when you go on, there'll be agenda and minutes. There'll be the minutes from the previous meetings, and you can see what they discussed on the previous ones. And it will be the agenda of what they're going to be discussing. When you go into a school board meeting, the agendas should be printed out and publicly available for anybody to attend so you can review it before you sit down. And there will also be something called public comment cards. You can fill out the card, and they have to this is a public meeting. So it is a school board meeting, but it's conducted in public, which means the public has every right to make a public comment about the issues that the school board is addressing during that session. And you don't have to even address an issue that is on the agenda. You can say, I want to address or talk about a non-agendized item. And you say, I want to talk about whatever the case may be. And you can speak for 2 minutes or 3 minutes or however long that school board says about a certain item at every school board meeting, because these are public meetings, and every public member has a right to make a public statement at these meetings.
How often do they meet on average?
It
School board?
Typically speaking, the school boards that I'm familiar with meet twice a month. But if you go onto their website, every school district should have a website, and it will say what their calendar is that is publicly available. It should have the minutes from the previous meetings, and then it will say 24 to 48 hours before the meeting, it should have posted the agenda for the next meeting. But on there, depending upon which school district you are, it should have the full calendar for the entire year, including special meetings, because they are publicly required to disclose to the public when their meetings are, the time and location, so that any member of the public can go to them.
And I have the schedule up for Long Beach Unified School District, their meetings right here.
Okay, so Long Beach here, but again, LA County is huge, and so even in my small area of Santa Clarita, we have one school district for junior highs and high schools, and then because it used to be a rural farm community, we have one school district called Sulphur Springs over here on this side of the valley, and then we have another one over here called Saugus Union over on this side, and then we have actually 4. We have one up in Castaic, and then we have another one down in New Hall. So they used to be separated by miles and miles of farmland, and then the valley got built, and there's nothing that separates them. They're just houses, but they're invisible lines that are drawn, and everybody has their own fiefdom. Nobody wants to consolidate. So now we have 4 separate elementary school districts and 1 for the junior high and high school, and their meetings are on different days.
Wow.
So you have to be attentive to find out what your neighborhood is and look it up, but it's all public information. It's all publicly available, and it's all on there with the dates
Yeah,
and the
just go to
times.
your city
Yeah.
calendar, it's not hard.
And then the agenda for the meeting needs to be publicly posted 48 hours before the meeting, so you can look to see what they're talking about. I would just suggest, just go a couple times, get a feel for it, and then when you really know what's going on, then you can start making public comments about how you feel about something, and then share that information in a group newsletter with other people, and it just gets the information out. And when you really get down and share this information, people go, oh my gosh, I had no idea that was going on. Like our teachers in one of our school districts, they did an internal survey, and 80% of our teachers in one of our school districts are miserable and they want to quit because the superintendent is so bad. Parents didn't know about that. We share that information. The other school district 5 miles down the street, the teachers love the school district, they love the superintendent, and things are going really well. One school district has all kinds of CRT and all of this other social and emotional learning nonsense. The other one has nothing. So school districts are different depending upon the superintendent that's kind of running. California has state laws, but depending upon the superintendent is how those laws are put into practice. And a good superintendent can take California state laws and say, we're going to do it, but we're going to do it in a way that isn't as far-reaching as some of the other superintendents. So it really is incumbent to get in, find out what's going on, listen, and then just start pushing back on things that don't make sense.
So, the people that speak at the school boards need to be a constituent of that district. They can't be like from another like area.
I would say that neighboring districts, or I wouldn't suggest maybe somebody from Arizona coming to talk in California.
Maybe
but if
another
you're-
California, like one of my group members that lives in Orange County.
Yeah, I
Coming
mean,
to Long Beach Unified, would that
absolutely.
be fine?
I think it's fine. I have had people from Glendale come up to our school board
really?
meetings and express their concerns. Everything crosses over,
Okay.
so you can show up, and it's a public comment. They cannot restrict who can speak at a public meeting. So, but it has the greatest impact when it's coming from a taxpaying constituent from that neighborhood.
And what about using your name versus you being anonymous? Let's say you don't want to have you attacked, so you don't want to give your name out.
Okay, this is not for the faint of heart and the weak. You have to be willing to say, my name is Karen Frost, I'm with Moms for Liberty, and I'm telling you this is wrong, okay? And that frightens a lot of people. This is not for the faint of heart. But if you have a warrior spirit and you fight for kids and you fight for what's right and you stand up and you say, this is what I believe in, then yes. Now, what you can do, our school board does this. I don't know if I'll do this, but I have read letters from teachers that are fearful of retaliation. So I will have teachers that will email me or write me a letter and say, I am fearful of our superintendent retaliation. Would you read this letter on my behalf? That is allowed at our school board meetings. So if they are afraid of retaliation, somebody else can read it on their behalf. But there's no anonymous presentations other than, I am here. This is my name, and I'm reading for somebody else that doesn't want to provide their name.
Mm-hmm. Can you share what happened to Madison Minor?
So Madison Minor is she is the Moms for Liberty chapter chair in Orange County. She was a school board trustee in, I believe, the city of Orange, and she is a strong conservative with conservative values, and she and another school board trustee were recalled by extreme far-left activists, and they were removed from their positions and replaced by leftists. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's the far left, they're loud, they can be intimidating, and they can scare some people. And I've had some people that have joined Moms for Liberty and started to say things, and they get a whole bunch of hate emails online and they back away. It's not for the faint of heart. the left is loud and scary, but they're keyboard warriors. And so you just have to find out where you fit within this paradigm and what feels authentic to you and what resonates within you that you say, I have to do this. I have to stand up for what's right. I don't care if I get a little pushback. I need to do this because it's the right thing to do. So Madison got removed from her position because the recall was effective. And that really was, she got elected into the position by conservatives, and there were not enough conservatives that step up and say, no, I don't believe she should be recalled. And this is one of the things here in California, guys. We got President Trump elected, and I'm really proud that he is. And we have great things coming from the top down. We do. And eventually it's going to reach California, but it's only going to reach us if we really, really work hard to make it go into effect here. Okay? And it's not going to happen easily. We need to fight to get the executive orders and congressional laws permanent here, because the establishment, the bureaucracy, the legislators, the Tony Thurmans and the Rob Bontas and the Gavin Newsoms, they are going to fight tooth and nail to prevent it happening here in California. It's eventually going to happen, but it's going to happen because we are willing to stand firm and usher it in. Yes, ma'am.
So, I mean, I understand when you have that title behind you, Moms for Liberty, but at this point, I don't have a child in school. Am I still allowed to be called the Moms for Liberty?
Yes, you can join. It's free. You can, there's a barcode on here. You can join the chapter. And then the application gets submitted into either my IT guy, his name is Dan, or me. Will go through the applications. We approve them. Now you're a Moms for Liberty member. And you can say, hey, I am a Moms for Liberty member, and this is what I'm saying. Or you can just go in and say, my name is, Susan Smith, and I believe in this. So you don't have to be part of an organization.
I just think it would give you more clout, wouldn't it?
I feel that it does, and that's why I joined. But I will tell you, the far left, you've heard of the Southern Poverty Law Center?
Yes.
Yeah, Southern Poverty Law Center was working with the Biden administration, and in closed-door sessions, they were able to designate us as a hate group.
Yeah.
Okay, there's nothing hateful about us. We're just moms and dads and grandparents standing up for parental rights. So some people, do internet search and go, oh, Moms for Liberty is a hate group. Tell me how. They can't answer that question. They just saw it online someplace. It scares people off. So you can show up and say, I'm Moms for Liberty, or you can show up and you say, I'm John Q. Citizen, and this is what I believe. I like being part of Moms for Liberty because it's like a parent union. I have lots of teacher friends, and a lot of them don't like the California Teachers Association, but it gives them collective bargaining for pay and work environment and work benefits. And so when you have a collective voice, you have more power. It's the same thing with Moms for Liberty. You have more collective bargaining when you are part of a union. And this is like a parents' union. It's a collective bargaining voice that stands up for what is right. And so you can show up at a school board meeting and say, this is how I feel, and that has power. Or you can say, I'm part of this group, and this is how I feel. But one way or the other, show up and fight for what you believe in. What this does is it just gives you additional tools and resources so you can go onto the platform and say, okay, Moms for Liberty, what is their mission statement? What are their standards? What do they believe in? And how can I align myself with their values to give a little bit of weight more to my voice? But one way or the other, whether you join as a part of a group or you go on your own, but go. Show up at these meetings. Say what you feel, because I will tell you that if you get into the weeds and start really pushing these school board trustees and really advocating for good candidates when they run, and put in the sweat equity, knock on the doors, make the phone calls, pass out the flyers, talk to parents, you can get the right people on. And then when they get pushback from the left, you have to stand up for them as well so that they don't get recalled. This is a hard job in California to stand up as a conservative, but you can make a difference. But it just takes some work.
So the Title IX situation with what President Trump's done versus what's actually happening in California. Can you speak to that?
So, we got a couple things on this. So Title IX, the Biden administration changed Title IX from women as our biological definition to gender expression, which allowed people that identified as being a woman into women's safe places in sports and scholarship opportunities. Moms for Liberty filed a class action lawsuit. We actually had 4 named complainants on this lawsuit, and we got an injunction before the election. So any Moms for Liberty member that signed up to be protected, we were carried under the original 1974 Title IX definition. So if there was a complaint, we got investigated by the original rules of Title IX. With President Trump being elected, he said President Biden's redefinition of Title IX is not valid. We're going back to the original. States like California are saying, no, we're going to go our own way. Maine, I don't know if you heard the governor's luncheon the other day, and President Trump said, I'll see you in court.
Good.
Good. Okay, that's going to happen in California too. It's going to get ugly here. It will. It's going to get ugly here. It's going to get ugly in New York. It's going to get ugly in Maine. It's going to get ugly in New Mexico and all of these other states with liberal governors pushing it. Eventually, it's going to work its way out through the courts, and President Trump is going to, and we are going to win on this. But it's not going to happen without our supporting his agenda. And we have to stand up and say, no, this is what I believe in. This is the executive order. This is federal law. School board, you're in violation of federal policies, and hold them accountable to this, because they're going to do whatever they want. Tony Thurman and Rob Bonta here in California, they're going to run amok in here in California until the funding starts getting stripped. And it's going to happen, and it's going to get ugly for a while, but we need to support the legislators that are standing up to do the right thing. And it's going to take, some intestinal fortitude to say, I'm standing up with what's right in a state that's very, very blue. But I'm preaching to the choir. You guys already know about that. But this is one of those issues that it's really important to stand up for what's right. Yes.
So exactly how many states are going against Trump's position?
Well, he's only been here for 4 weeks. I don't know that anybody has a clear idea on that yet. The governor's luncheon yesterday was a pretty clear indication that Maine drew a line in the sand. He said, bring it. I have a feeling that California will say, we're going to fight it. I'm pretty sure New Mexico, Oregon, Washington, Minnesota, Wisconsin, all of the very, very blue states are going to fight it. And then all the red states are going to align, and then there's some purple states that are on the border. So I think that we're going to see this play its way through court, and then eventually decisions will get made. But it's incumbent upon us here in California that when these legal challenges start happening, we go to the school board and say, no, I'm expecting you to adhere to federal law, because federal law supersedes state law. And you have to hold your school board members accountable, saying, I know what the Constitution says, I know what the rules are, federal law supersedes state law, and you're in violation, and I'm holding you accountable. Yes, ma'am.
So there was something about getting rid of the Department of Education, federal law, and I was just wondering how that, if we don't have the federal thing over the education, how is that going to impact it? How do we still have the power if they don't have the Department of Education, if that is
This is going to be an interesting thing, because I'm really supportive of the president's agenda sending it back to the states. But if you've heard him talking about this, he says certain states are going to do great because they're going to be as competitive. States like Idaho and Iowa and Florida are going to be as competitive as the countries like Sweden, Denmark, and Finland and Norway. He says they're going to do great. In other states, they're going to just fail. And California is going to be one of those ones. It's going to look really, really bad. And sometimes you have to rip off the Band-Aid and let it get exposed to air and clean it and heal it before any progress can be made. And so if we lose federal funding for education and we let California put education back to California, you're going to see more and more parents exercising their rights to homeschooling and other schooling options. And eventually the system will implode on itself, and they'll have to fix it because it will become that bad. Other states are going to be wildly successful. California is not going to be one of those states. And it hurts me because this is my home, and it's been my home since my great-granddad was born here in 1901. But it's still worth fighting for. But I am realistic enough to know that when the president pulls the funding and sends it back to the states are going to mismanage it terribly. Unless we can get a really good governor and we can rattle people's attention to get a good superintendent of education. Tony Thurman is there now. He is a Marxist left-wing lunatic. We need to get rid of him. We need to figure out who is in charge now and say, whoever's there, we need to replace them with somebody better. So we need to really start looking at who is in place and finding better candidates, because a lot of things are going to be coming back to the states, and we can't just rely on the federal government anymore. We're going to have to fix it here in California, and it's going to be hard. And we're going to need to advocate and fight for the right people.
We've
And that
had
means,
good candidates, we can't get them elected.
well,
So
But they don't
true.
support them. It's not
It's-
Republican Party in California.
I know.
this is really hard because you guys are all engaged and involved. Okay, you are, and I am too. But where's everybody else? We need to, remember that that commercial with the hair shampoo? I'll tell two friends and you tell two friends. We need to get more people to understand that this is something that we can actually do. And we don't have to change the world, but if you can get two people showing up to a school board meeting with you and paying attention to the agenda and writing letters to the superintendent and trustees, that starts making a difference. And then you get two more people, and now all of a sudden you have a team of 12 people that are really paying attention, and they're under scrutiny, and they start realizing. And then you start getting other people to do it at city council and the board of supervisors. Like, you just, we need to get more people out of their comfort zones and actually paying attention. And I'll admit it, like, before I started doing this, I wasn't paying attention. Until my kids got locked out of school for 2 years, I wasn't paying attention either. But it's now time to start rattling people and say, hey, it's time to pay attention. Because we can make a difference here in California, but everybody needs to be aware of what's at stake. Yes, ma'am.
What's happening is also important to fathers. At the conference we went to last week, his child is under threat right now. And then I met today at Farmer
Is
Boys.
that Adam?
Huh?
Adam,
I'm not sure.
is that Dad Army with his kid
Yeah.
that was being transitioned? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a
Oh,
warrior.
that guy, yeah.
Yeah.
And then today I was at Farmer Boys to order some food, and one of the guys in there recognized me from talking to me one time, and I said, I'm going to a meeting tonight, and he wanted me to pull over after I ordered takeout food, and we talked a little bit. He's from Greece, and he said he's concerned about his son, just about what's going on. He doesn't know, the difference between Democrat and Republican. I said, well, I'll tell you what, I have no problems with saying something's wrong with Democrats,
Right.
period, because of abortion, because of what they're doing to kids, trans, men and girls' locker rooms and surgeries on kids, and so he might be interested in coming here, but fathers are
Yeah.
concerned. Why don't, can they have dads and moms for
Absolutely,
Liberty,
we
or-
got a lot of dads.
But maybe
Moms
a
for
couple.
Liberty was started by a couple moms.
Yeah.
And so that's where the name came from, but we're moms, dads, and grandparents, and any concerned adult. You don't need to be a mom, it's
Right.
just, that's the name,
Yeah.
kind of like Moms for America. It was just started by a couple moms, so that's what the name is, but it's moms, dads, grandparents, aunts, uncles, any concerned adult. You don't need to be a parent you don't even need to be a parent, just a concerned adult. I had, one of my first founding members is a guy from my Republican women's group, and he's a spouse. He doesn't even have any kids, and he's like, I'm in. So you don't have to be a parent, you don't have to be a grandparent, you don't even have to be a woman to join Moms for Liberty. It's just a name of the women that started it. But yeah, it's our mission statement is educating, empowering, and unifying. We need to educate people. People live here in California and they just don't pay attention to what's going involved. I think we can make a real difference in one conversation at a time. When I get the leftists that are coming after me and you're a racist, you're a gender, xenophobe, you're a transphobe. Okay, you know what? Let's sit down and have a cup of coffee and let's just have a discussion. All right? And changing minds, one level-headed conversation backed up with facts at a time. It's amazing what you can do when you sit down, you have eye contact, you would talk with somebody, one conversation at a time. And it makes people that don't do this regularly uncomfortable. People don't like talking about religion or politics and all of these things, but we need to stop that. And we need to be okay to say, this is what I believe, this is why I believe it, and in a respectful manner, and just have conversations with people. And you would be astonished about how much people don't know and how appreciative they are if you just present them with facts in a friendly and open way. without trying to coerce them over to your side, just say, hey, were you aware of this? Did you know about this? What do you think about this? And have a conversation. It's amazing what people will say, I was not aware. I did not know that this was happening. I did not know boys were participating in girls' sports and losing trophies and scholarship opportunities and job opportunities. I did not know that boys were competing and, taking space in girls' locker rooms. I did not know that, social and emotional learning is, manipulation of some crazy psychobabble. I mean, it's amazing what the people don't realize is happening. And when you explain it to them, you're like, do you realize this is what your kids are being exposed to? And they're being told that there's something wrong with them because of the skin that they were born into, that they had no, ability to create. We should not be separating kids based upon immutable characteristics of their gender or ethnicity or skin color. And we have curriculum that's dividing kids. And when you tell them this is how they're dividing kids, and wow, I didn't realize that. You present it in an easygoing, factual, friendly way, and you change people's perception one conversation at a time. And it can really happen. And it really does make a difference if we're not, aggressive and combative about it. Just, I'm going to explain this to you, friend to friend. Were you aware? And it's amazing the difference that it can happen in those kind of environments.
Well, even if you don't talk the politics, the first couple conversations, I'm a caregiver, and someone came in as a weekend caregiver, and it was before the election, and she didn't even want the lady that were watching to watch politics because she said, I can't stand Trump.
Right.
And so the lady that we're watching is from Ukraine, and she's 94 years old now. So she was more gentle about explaining how she became an immigrant here. And then I told her, I said, are you aware that people are coming over from like Mexico, the border, and they're dying, they're dying off, or children are missing, and she just wouldn't have it at all. She wouldn't listen to it at all. Well, now President Trump was elected, and so she and I are having friendly conversations.
Exactly.
And I did mention our group tonight, so maybe, and she's from Mexican background, and so we had very nice conversations the last two times. So
You
it
hit on
can
the
be a bridge
values, right?
eventually.
You hit on the values that you have in common, and don't try and beat somebody over the head.
Right.
Moms for Liberty, we call ourselves the joyful warriors. We're gonna
Aw.
fight like a mother with a smile on our face.
Yeah.
Okay, you're never gonna hear us using profanity. You're never gonna hear us, threatening violence. We're gonna go in. We're gonna be polite. We're gonna be respectful. We're gonna be supportive with facts, and we're gonna do it in a dignified manner. Because you know why? Our children are watching. You fight in a manner that your kids will be proud of when they see you fight for them like this.
Plus there's healing going on.
Absolutely.
Those that lost what they thought was their side that lost,
Yeah.
they've got to get used to what's going on now, and it's going to be obvious, especially with the money they're uncovering, like what they've been spending it on. I mean, what kind of people are just
I
brain
think
dead?
there's a
not
lot of people that
understanding?
are
They're going, wow.
just having an epiphany and coming to realization, but it's hard. And a lot of times I have liberal friends and I tell them, I know you're nervous, I know you're scared, I know you don't like what you're seeing, but I hope that you end up being pleasantly surprised. And just be compassionate about it. We don't have to go beating people over the head. Compassionate, open conversations can change people's opinion one conversation at a time. You've had your hand up forever.
It's fine. Okay, so you said that that people should get involved,
Yes, ma'am.
and they need to know that. But okay, even I just recently went through Turning Point,
Okay.
and they turned me down.
I've never heard of
When Turning Point, so Charlie Kirk is one that runs it. I have no clue if he knows about this, but California, they've changed their whole mission. They have changed it
Yeah, I have
for
worked
high
with,
schoolers.
yeah, I've worked with Turning Point, and I was working with one of the mentors, and he's actually recently moved up to Northern California, so I don't know
Yeah.
what the details
Wait.
are, but
I know Wade. He runs the LA County.
yeah, I'm not sure, and
He
I don't.
lives in Fresno, but he runs the LA County, the schools,
Mhm.
college and high school. But he just told me to go to a different organization or create my own.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense, but
California.
you should
They
you
gave
should
up
reach
on
up the
California,
Yeah.
yeah, because there are turning points at our high schools. We have a turning point in one of our high schools, and if you're not getting the information that you need and it doesn't make sense to you,
Homeschooled.
then go up the chain of command. There's also Turning Point Faith, which is a really good organization that we align with as well. So if you don't find a place that feels comfortable and doesn't fit, you find someplace else where you can make the difference that fits within your mission statement. Where can you make a difference? It may not be Turning Point, it may be someplace else, but you find the place where you can make a difference on the things that mean something to you.
I'm hoping to speak at the Torrance School Board
Okay, I
meeting.
think you should.
Because there is one thing that, now see, Trump did not get rid of the Department of Education, but he needs to. Because that is one thing that should be gotten rid of. And for a long time, because especially I was in 6th grade, every Republican I talk to doesn't even know this, but in 6th grade is what they're teaching, starting to teach kids wrong things, like how with taking Christ out of history.
Yeah. Well, and they also talk. My kid is now in 8th grade, one of them, and that in 7th grade is where they taught them. I think he was taught that there were 12 different genders or something absurd like that. But there are also opt-outs. So as parents, we need to realize that there are ways that the school district is not going to tell you, and it's not going to make it readily available. But you have ways as a parent, if your kids are still in the public school system, you can say, I am opting out. I'm opting out of any surveys. I am opting out of any sexual education classes. There are ways that you can opt out of it. They're not going to make it easy to learn, but there are ways to do it. And on the back table, I left some pamphlets. They're kind of wonky. They got printed weird, but there's some really good resources about some of the sexual training that our schools are doing. And if we've had members in our chapter that their kids have been eaten up by the trans cult, and now they are detransitioning. And we have members in our chapter that are really good resources to help parents for people that get caught up in this and trying to get out. Pacific Justice Institute is a great legal firm that works with us. We have a lot of great resources that are just really now starting to get their wind underneath their wings and moving forward full steam. We have great attorneys like Aaron Friday and Jennifer Kennedy that are really fighting on some of these things. So there's a pamphlet in the back that has some great resources if you have questions about those kind of things that are happening in schools too. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my son is a college age, and he had a situation at school he talked about earlier about the teacher, not teaching American values and trying to change history and like whatever. He's right here. What else did you do?
The way she presented the class. Of course, we're starting out early American history, so of course, we're not going to get right into the Revolution yet. But the way she's wording it is very misleading, and she said literally nothing positive about the Columbia Exchange. She's been saying everything negative to paint a picture that we took over Indian land, or native, quote unquote, Native American reality, it's Indian land, and that's all. It's being pushed, and I can read through it. That's like great, one of my skills I can have, but I can see through it, and I just feel sorry for the people in the class who are oblivious and don't get that she's literally trying to indoctrinate them to hate our country.
Yeah.
You said that Christ is false. What else did you say?
She also said that she's trying to say that the Europeans that came in tried to teach a false like religion, Protestantism, and then in the Spanish, the Catholicism. They're trying to, and she's comparing that to like myths and stuff, and it's false. And it's just, I get it. That's her perspective, but be more open about it, because there are Christians in the room,
Yeah.
and she's not. She's like she's so one-sided, and it's not right.
It's really hard, and a lot of teachers have gotten into this for an agenda. Your truth.
But isn't there something he could do about it? Like, if they ask him to use his pronouns, and
Oh, they haven't done that yet.
I know, but other teachers at that school have done it to other students.
in my local school district, they pass out surveys at the beginning and they say, what are your pronouns? And can I have conversations with you about your gender expression in private? Heck no.
Right.
When things like this come, you email the superintendent immediately. You nip that in the bud immediately. And so when something happens like this, you're like, I do not feel comfortable with how this is presented. You take it up the chain of command. You may not get the answer that you want, but you let them know we can't be silent, and
Can't go along with a
you
lie.
can't
It's
go
a
along
lie.
to
Do I
get
need-
along.
Isn't there Young Americans for Freedom that are doing anything about the college age students?
There are
You can join them. They can help
yeah,
fight it with
there
them.
are Young Americans, which is kind of like and they have Turning Point on college campuses too. You can find, or you can create your own. I heard you were talking about starting your own club. Find your people and stand up and fight for what you believe. But it is really hard because the teachers, a lot of them have very far left ideologies, and they got into this profession
For a reason.
for a reason, to push their ideas and stay firm in which are.
You can file a
On
complaint.
campus,
Exactly.
there's a lot of Republicans in college.
Now, it's college, it's not, I don't know how they are when it comes like state, like in high school, there's the state standards. And the California state standards on history, you know, and people had a lot of arguments about that and all, but they are actually fairly solid on stuff. They don't actually support any of that, like real wild-eyed, you know, leftist stuff.
And if
so,
they do have teachers that go off on those tangents, there are things that you can do and report
yeah,
it.
get filed some kind of complaint that they're violating the
Colleges
state
are a little
standards
bit
and all
more
that.
complicated.
Yeah, I'm not
and
sure how they're working
you
on
may,
that.
when you get a little bit closer, when you get through your first 2 years, decide to go to a place like Grand Canyon University or Hillsdale, or a college that aligns with your personal values. They do have them. They do exist.
When I were to file a complaint, should I supply some evidence? You know, they
We should
literally
record the
prohibit.
class.
They prohibit recording in the class without the teacher's consent. And that's why I don't want to break a rule.
I would just provide your eyewitness testimony, and then if there's anybody else in the class that could substantiate it, don't violate a rule to support. Just and then it's just report your truth.
What's also frustrating is I'm gonna make this short, but what's also frustrating is some of the students in that class are in fact transgender, and she's trying to make it like suitable for them, but she's not making it suitable for me when I'm a Christian.
Right. We're living in upside down world,
Yeah.
and we're in LA County, and this is pervasive. And you're in Long Beach, one of the
Yeah.
meccas of the LGBTQ mafia.
Yeah.
So this is where we are living.
It is better than the Long
And-
Beach though,
Right.
because there are
It's
some.
Golden West. It's Orange County.
There are
School.
some conservatives. I mean, there are some teachers that I can just tell that are conservative. I may not have that class directly, but I would pass by a class and I would overhear, maybe like I'll be sitting doing my work and I would hear them talk, and they mention nothing about Antichrist and this, and it's another history class. There's multiple history classes.
Well, and they wonder why college enrollments are down. I have 4 kids. 2 of them are college age, and neither one of them chose to go that route. And one of them is going into the police department, following my steps. My daughter is an esthetician, and they decided my son started college, and he says, I can't do this. It just doesn't make sense to me. There are great careers: HVAC, plumbing, electricians, carpentry, car mechanics, that you don't need a 4-year degree. If you want your 4-year degree because it's something that you need for your future, then do it. But if you can provide yourself a livelihood without being subjected to that, then you can think about that. College is great. I got a college degree. I'm very happy that I did. It's not for everybody. And we shouldn't be exposing and subjecting our kids to this indoctrination for a 4-year degree when it's not going to help them in the long run. If it's not a career, that they have to have it.
I just see that college students are. I can see why they believe the way they believe. It's not just because they're so misinformed. It's the fact that they're groomed to think this way.
Yeah.
And I know for sure that's not going to happen to me. I have such a strong foundation, but it's hard to watch. One of my friends is I've known him for a couple months now. His name's John, and his parents are Republican, and he mentioned it briefly. He said he's not sure what to think because he was never involved in politics before, and he eventually did vote for Trump, which I found out about, which is great. But he's not as strong and foundation as I am, and so
Very
I want.
few are, Quinn.
I don't want him turning. I don't want him to be indoctrinated and then turn against our country and Trump, because that's what's happening to so many people, and it's hard to watch.
Well, there's so many people my age that have college-age kids that say, I raised my kids and they had great values and went to church, and then they went off to college and they came back liberal, granola-eating blue hairs, right?
Yeah.
It may be, college may be great. If you have a desire to be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a dentist, all of these things require a college degree. And it is great for those things because you have to have it. And sometimes you just have to hunker down and just filter out all of the BS. If you do not need a college degree for your career choice, then don't subject yourself to it, because the only way that this is going to change is that they see a huge reduction in enrollment, and we have young people that are going and getting a tech career in HVAC and construction and estheticians and all of these other careers that don't need a degree, and then they're going to, where did our enrollment go? Well, you messed up the system so badly the kids don't want to do that anymore, and they will have to fix it. It will take time. The Titanic does not change on a dime. It takes time to correct itself. But if we start standing firm and saying, I'm not going to subject my children to that kind of indoctrination, I'm going to send them to trade school and they're going to be able to make $150,000 a year doing HVAC, then college enrollment will continue to go down.
I think
That's where Moms for Liberty organizations come in, and as far as their children, seeing that their parents are fighting for them, and plus the key thing for parents to do is to train their children in critical thinking skills, to where they're not so affected if they do go to college, that they already know what their beliefs
Provide the
are.
good foundation. But I have members, one of my closest friends that is in my chapter, she sent her daughter off she was homeschooled, finally went to high school, was around a bunch of other artistic kids, and now all of a sudden she decided she was transgender.
Oh my gosh.
And then the school hid it from her and was socially transitioning her behind the parents' back, and they filed lawsuit, and it continued, and they were changing school records. It happens even in communities just like this, and so you have to be vigilant.
What's good about Huntington Beach is that they're pretty conservative.
Yeah.
They've always fought against the woke flag at City Hall.
Huntington Beach is great,
Yeah.
but you have to stand and
Right.
fight where you are.
Right.
Because if you think, well, I'm in a safe place and it's not going to happen here, this stuff it's a woke mind virus, and it keeps going. You got to fight where you are.
Also, the young gal up front, was it Thousand Oaks or something? Where was it that Turning Point she was disappointed in? I didn't catch where that was.
I'm not. Which
Oh,
chapter did you apply for?
South Bay.
South Bay.
Okay, so the upper people like Charlie Kirk or other people higher up might not know what's going on there.
No.
So it's
And that's why I
important-
say you have to
it's
go.
important- It's important to bring it up, because just like with the school system, that people didn't know about what was going on in schools until the pandemic, you have to bring it up to the higher up.
Right.
So that
And I would take, if somebody said you can't be part of this chapter, then you go above the chain of the command and say, I don't know why this happened to me, but you need to look into this because it wasn't right. The organization needs to know.
Well, they said that they're not gonna have activism as part of the group, that's what the Turning Point's all about.
Right.
It's gonna have like a social group, and then they said, well, California is different, they're gonna have the high school ones not do the activism because California, it's already, and like, thinking, why are you gonna surrender in California? California, from all of our activism we've been involved in, is, there's tremendous support and a tremendous desire to have things change here, and so.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Strategically, I would surrender California.
I do know that there are different rules for Turning Point high schools than the Turning Point colleges. And I do know that there are different rules for the sponsors of those programs. And so the Turning Point sponsors at high schools have very specific rules of engagement that they're allowed to do with minors and the activism that they're allowed to get engaged in. And it's very different at Turning Point colleges where there's adults and they can get involved. I'm not familiar, I know that we align with Turning Point on some activities. I don't know all of their rules and regulations, but I would go up their chain and find out what happened. And they may say, I love your ideas, but you have to wait until you're 18 in order to do these things because of, certain code violations within the high school chapters. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, we're told that in the high school level, because if you look at their publications and all their information about it, says that, they do all the activism and all But this is like a group that's not at a particular school either. But we were told that, oh well, they're going to try to change that up and make it to where it's just basically social stuff with that, and because they're going to do that different with California because California is so difficult. And like,
I don't know. It may just be, high schools may be a safe place for other conservatives to socialize, and then they get more active when they get into the college. I don't know. I don't know Turning Point's rules.
I think one last
that I-
question that we have to,
thing, but,
getting late.
Oh.
I
Um,
know.
That was great though, my gosh.
yeah,
It was so
thank you
interesting.
for speaking here. I just
Really
wanted
good.
to
Thank you.
mention real quick about about why I think that so many college students go from like conservative to left is, and some parents, not all, but some, because foundations are obviously important, but I think the fact that they don't really parent the college students to a degree because they're adults now and they have their own mind. Well, I think because they're being filtered all this information and they're not getting that foundational support anymore. That could be a reason why.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when you grow up in a certain environment and you have your parental rules of engagement, and then you're off to college and you're living freely for the first time, it's just human nature to
Yeah.
test boundaries and try new things that were different than your parents exposed you to. There was a time when I was at college and I was questioning certain ideas in the 80s and 90s, and my dad said, "Oh my gosh, what did I do? Raise a liberal?" And it was just because I was questioning ideas because I was, outside of my parents' environment for the first time. And it's just human nature. You question, what was I raised in? What do I believe? Where does this fit? And sometimes kids, just because they want to challenge what they were raised in, get swept up into something that's almost like a mind cult and,
Yeah.
and captures them. And so it's really, really enticing to push beyond the parental boundaries and try something new, and they don't realize how dangerous and toxic it can be.
I think the colleges take advantage of that too.
Oh,
So if a kid doesn't have a good foundation, yeah, they get the purpose of the college really is to draw them away from all that. And for me,
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm gonna put that on the
because I
video.
did have a good foundation, it hardened me in
Well, yeah, one more.
ability to
Really
fight
strengthen
that
your-
stuff and learn how to fight it, make those arguments, and but with people that don't have a good foundation and all that, oh yeah, it'll pull them away, and then they'll
Absolutely.
take advantage of, like you're saying, to then
I'll do it.
question it. Oh, I've heard something I haven't heard before. Oh, and then pull them
Right.
away.
Yep.
And they have to be made aware that intimidation's used a lot, intimidation and manipulation.
Oh, there's a lot of it.
Through
You just have to be firm in what you believe in. Maureen has my all my information. My email address is always on the business cards in the lobby. There's a barcode here. If you want to join, you can join for free. Email me if you have questions. You say, I want to do this, but I don't really know how to get started. Just reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you in any
I
way
also
that I
have
can.
a video that we can watch on how to do it.
Yep.
So
And
go ahead
then
and play
just start getting involved. You're like, okay, this is what's happening. What do I do with this?
Oh, I
You
want to
know,
have
a
it on the
support
video.
system of people that will help you, because we're not the first ones to do this, but we've gotten pretty good at it, and we want to mentor other people into how to make it effective. So thank you for all your time and attention. My sweet little boy has been so patient in the back. So
Good job,
My
guys.
name is I'm an
Good job, guys.
LBUSD, and I'll be letting you know how to attend and participate in an LBUSD school board meeting. Speaking at board meetings is an amazing opportunity to let your voice be heard in the community, but this process can also be a little intimidating. So let's go through it step by step. The regular meetings at the LBUSD Board of Education are typically held on the first and third Wednesday of each month, though I recommend you check the LBUSD website beforehand, as there are occasional special meetings held. These meetings typically begin at 5 p.m. at the community room of the District Administration Building at 1515 Hughes Way, Long Beach, California. If you're interested in participating in these meetings by providing public commentary, I recommend you arrive at the community room around 4 p.m. as there are a limited number of speaker positions available. By 4:30, the school safety officers will also hand out forms for speakers. Depending on whether or not the topic you would like to discuss is on the agenda or off the agenda, you'll be given a form for items listed on or off the agenda. The agenda will also be available on the district website prior to the meeting. After the meeting begins, people will be allowed to speak in the order in which the forms were received, and speakers will be called up to the podium for their commentary. When you get to the podium, please step up to the microphone, state your name, and direct your remarks to the chair. Please note that you will have up to 3 minutes to speak, though there is no pressure to fill up the entire 3 minutes. It's also important to note that if you're speaking to an item that is not on the agenda, the board is legally not allowed to respond to your commentary. However, the board members can recommend placing your item on a future meeting agenda or refer the item to staff for a report. The Board of Education meetings are also live streamed on the district's YouTube channel and local cable channels if you're unable to attend the meeting in person. There are also additional ways to engage with the LPSD officials in a non-board meeting setting, but that's for another day. In the meantime, now you know the process of attending and providing public commentary at an LPSD school board meeting. See you at the next one.